Hello, class. How are you guys? This is Module 8, and there are two video lectures to this class. This probably would be your first that you'd watch, and then the second would be Module 8 Whiplash Structure. Okay? So this is sort of specifically about the assignment and what's going on in this class. And then secondly, the whiplash structure is a review of structure, which I highly recommend that you all view. Okay. Now, the assignment for this class is to do a full beat sheet on your story. Now, given that I know where most of you are at, that's a stretch. But at some level, you got to give it a shot. So I'm going to ask you to do that. Now, what is a beat sheet exactly? Well, for one thing, a beat sheet for a feature film is going to be around 55 to 72 scenes, right? A scene is a place where characters talk, maybe characters fight, whatever they do, but it's defined by that it was taking place at a specific time and location. So you can write something across the top. You don't have to do it for a beat sheet, but it's going to say interior, Ian's house, day. And then you're going to see me giving a lecture to a video thing, right? The next scene might be exterior ArcLight Theater, Hollywood. Ian and girlfriend go in and buy tickets to see a movie, right? So scenes are defined. Each beat in a scene is, or each beat in a outline for a movie is going to be basically, this is a scene, and this is what happens in the scene. Now, you can write this in as detailed a form as possible, but really, ideally, you want to be writing only 2 or 3 lines at the most in a beat sheet. You don't want to be writing a lot. A lot of young writers begin to suddenly write their movie in a prose form in the beat sheet. No. It's going to be something that is, again, if I go back to what I was just saying, exterior arc light, and you don't have to write where it takes place. I find it useful because it just puts me in the right place. You'll change these sorts of things. I like locations. It's my thing. I like to know where things happen. But the key point is that you're going to write about what the characters do in a scene. So it might be Ian and girlfriend at snack stand at ArcLight, and girlfriend accuses Ian of sleeping around, and Ian defends himself, crowd around him, get excited, and Gwen strides off, or girlfriend strides off, period. New scene. Ian catches up with Gwen at car in parking lot and begs her to forgive him, admits what he'd done. She, crying, gets an Uber and leaves. Period. Next scene. Ian in bar has managed to connect with his friend Frank, and they are both fantastically drunk and discussing the victimhood of how women always treat them as victims. Beautiful woman, for some obscure reason, approaches Ian and asks if she would do him a favor. No, if he would do her a favor, period. See, those are all different locations. They're separated in time, right? And that's what your beat sheets have to be. That's kind of like, this happens, and then, so one of the mistakes that a lot of students make, other than overriding their scenes, is they tend to don't write different scenes when it's all one scene. I mean, or they tend to write multiple scenes in a single beat. If time or location change in a significant way, then you need to write a new beat. So where this gets complicated is, say you have a party, and you're going to have a bunch of scenes take place at the party. Well, what you want to imply is that they're in the living room, and this happens, and that's a beat. And then 10 minutes later, they're in the kitchen, and then this happens. That's a different beat. That's a different scene. They're in a different place. Every time you change locations, it's a new scene. every time a significant period of time passes, and that can be 5 minutes, it can be 3 weeks, but that's a new scene, okay? I emphasize this because the problem I find is that you make that mistake and you can't analyze the script in terms of how many scenes there are. Okay. So you're going to generate a beat sheet for this story. Now, let me just rewind a little bit and talk about process here. You're going to have the opportunity to rewrite this beat sheet. As a matter of fact, this is an odd assignment, but the reality is it's good for you to do it, and here's why. Bear with me because I'm going to explain this for a minute. If you think about it, what's really going on here is that you started off with, your first step is the sense, okay, I've identified some public domain property that I'm going to adapt. Then secondly, you figure out a milieu, some way to bring it up into the contemporary world. That's a key step. Meanwhile, you've also broken down the story so you know the original cold, right? So you figured out the milieu. Now you've done the 3Ds of character. And theoretically, at this point, you've done the 3 dimensions of character on your protagonist and antagonist, and I've tortured you about this stuff. You need to do the 3Ds of character on all your characters that are important, right? If somebody's got a bunch of scenes, you need to know the 3Ds of character. That's not part of the assignments here. We don't give it. You're writers. You need to do it anyways. So you finish your 3Ds of characters. Now, here's the next step, and this is where this particular exercise can be useful. See if you can figure out what the ending to your movie is going to be. By that I mean the climax, where the protagonist confronts the antagonist. And try to figure it out with some specificity. It's going to take place at the daughter's school play, and there the guy who loves the daughter's mother is going to come and ask the mother to forgive him for whatever it is, and as a result of all this, they're going to fall in love, right? Or alternatively, the 25-year-old man who has been beaten up by his older brother and is determined to have revenge on him because he knows for a fact that his older brother killed his father, has decided to get the courage, organize a team. And he's going to go after his brother, and he's going to kill his brother. And so the scene, that's the act. That would be the second plot point. He would then, the confrontation is where he kills his brother. What does he do? Where does he go? Kicks in the door, fires guns, whatever it is, the gun battle news. That's the climax. Then it's useful to also describe in your ending what the payoff and resolution is. The payoff is how all the other plot points tie up and what's exactly going to happen. Does, the brother bleeds to death in the younger brother's arms and says, "Would you forgive me?" And the younger brother says, "No." Whatever he does. And then the resolution is what happens. Is the younger brother going to jail, or what's the deal? So see in this assignment if you can figure that out, right? So the assignment is to do all the beats. So you should be doing, ideally between 50 or 72 or whatever I said beats on this screenplay. But the reality is, what I really want you to think about here is your Act 2 is going to be fantastically soft. You're not going to really have a clear idea of subplots. That's fine. You're going to have ample opportunity in this class. We're halfway through. You've got lots more time to do it. But I do want you to think about your ending. So think about your ending, okay? Now, attached to this video is going to be a beat sheet example, which gives an example of what a beat sheet looks like. I'm not in love with this beat sheet. In the other video, you're going to see a beat sheet for Whiplash, which in some ways I wrote and I like better, but it's a beat sheet for a short. But you're going to see a beat sheet for a period piece. We're not doing period pieces, just go on record here, but this happens to be a beat sheet example of a period piece of an Agatha Christie story, or Agatha Christie proposed outline for a movie. So that's the deal. somebody came up with a great idea. Somebody else is doing these video lectures, and they said, hey, if you have a question for me, and I'm saying this to you, if you have a question for me and would like me to address it, happy to do so. So send me a question, and if you think it's good for the class, or I do, I'll address it in these videos. Thank you very much.